Mark Walsh here from Embodied Yoga Principles. So I've been teaching my whole life, third generation teacher. I've taught at least 10,000 hours of various things. And what I notice is my students are different from each other. Somehow this is not put in textbooks or in teaching, you know, it's as if we're all the same. I mean, I have seen in yoga people like Paul Grilly saying that yoga students have different anatomy now, like there's some recognition that people may have, you know, different rotated femur bones or different, you know, if we hold our arms out, could you hold your arms out? You'll see like Tonya's arms and my arm are just completely different in terms of the, hold it out that way, in terms of the angles. There's a straight line between my hand and my shoulder, whereas with you, the hand is slightly this way, and this is slightly what's called hyperextended, though you might say mine is hypoextended. And Tonya's is even more extreme that way. That's a classic gender difference between men and women, actually, in terms of the angles of the hands and the shoulders. So the anatomical differences like that, that's an easy to spot gender one. When I was teaching archery, I used to see that because the girls would get hit by the string, you know, when they fired the bow. So we have these anatomical differences, and other people can talk, you know, individually, gender, culture, that they exist. You know, like a Maasai is different from a pygmy, let's be honest, yeah? As well as these physiological differences, we also have personality differences. So there's many, many models for this. We use a 4 elements model. It's really worth noting if your students are more earthy, watery, fiery, or airy. These are kind of like how they sound, so I think it's a good one to share on video because it's pretty commonsensical. So something an earth student would do, for example, is when Tonya and Katerina are both studying with me at the moment, and they did a class together, and I saw their lesson plans earlier. And Katerina's lesson plan is an Excel. How would you describe it, Katerina? Your
They agreed where I put the consequence, the short description of the introduction, then the question for inquiry.
Okay, so it was thorough, and it was on an Excel spreadsheet, color-coded, with multiple things per section. Timings were on there, obviously. Okay, so this is a more, we might say, earthy way of doing things. There's nothing wrong with that. And Katerina's also going to ask me a lot of questions about, well, what are the facts, and what's the right way to do it, and what's the correct order. And she's going to ask me all those questions as a student, and that's fine. That's just kind of what she needs to learn. It's also partly cultural. People do that more in Russia, though I've found, than some other countries. Tonya, how was your lesson plan?
It was a page in my notebook where I put just the name of postures and the numbers, and then I draw some pictures around.
Some pictures, obviously, some squiggles.
Themes and questions, and then I used like pencil and pen and colorful pen. And, like.
Yeah, so it's, we might say a more airy way of doing it. So sort of creative, fun, you know, a little bit chaotic maybe. And they've both got advantages and disadvantages. They're both very good students. They're both people who are learning the method. I'm teaching them very well over the last few months. But, you know, Tonya's going to do it in her creative kind of way. And she's going to want to know, how's it fun, or make this interesting? And, you know, it's going to be a very different set of questions she's going to ask. And she's going to need me to say, this is the big picture of what's possible. And this is how you can use it creatively. And Katerina's going to just be like, more just like, look, just tell me the method, point by point. She's asking me today, how do I structure a class? You were asking me today. Structure, that's like a very earthy question, yeah? So earth and air here. We could also talk about water and fire. So my sense is you're not like extreme fire, but maybe a bit more fiery, and you're quite watery. Is that fair to say from having studied this model? Fire people sometimes say, no, I'm not fiery. And water people are like, well, if you think that's true, it must be true. So I'd say certainly there's a difference there, yeah, though I'm much more fiery than Katerina. So fire students like me, they're like, what's the point in this? Get to the point, give me it quick. What's the method? Just tell me straight. If they're not good at something, you can just tell them, say, Mark, you're rubbish at this, you need to sort it out. Yeah, fire people like it straight, they like it hard, they like the results. They like that no-nonsense. You've got to be quick. At the beginning of the workshop, you say to the fire people, here's what you will get if you do this. You need to say that up front, not like, let's talk and connect and da-da-da. Like when I work in business or with the military, that's like a really common type. And it's actually, you know, there are people in yoga like that, and certain yoga practices like maybe hot or Ashtanga that build that in people. So it's worth, you know, we have a type and a practice which encourages a type, like you do Iyengar yoga, don't you, as well as being an earthy type. So that's probably not a coincidence. And in terms of like more watery people, Tonya, like how do more watery people want to be taught?
I think more careful and supportive
So feelings, connection, relationship. Like, did you notice I got you some chocolates for like helping you? So Tonya like helped me out with some stuff, so I got her some chocolates. And like a fire person might be just like, well, yeah, thanks, I can get my own chocolates. But a water person is going to be like, oh, you thought about me, that's so sweet. Like, you know? So that kind of importance of relationship when working with more water people, that it's, you know, it's not just about the practicalities, it's also about the connection, how do you feel and being cared for, you know, those sort of things. And they're going to be very different teachers as a result, but I need to adapt my teaching style, yeah? So as a yoga teacher, I might say, okay, here's the plan of today for the earth people, here's what you'll get, here's the point for the fire people. I want to check in, how are you guys feeling for the water people, and here's how it's going to be fun and different for the air people. So I'm able to simultaneously speak to everyone, and then people just ignore the bits they don't care about. You know? Anything you two want to say on this? You both experienced teachers of different things, so different types of students. Anything you want to add to my ramblings?
I think all these elements are important to switch them on at one time so people get you. And for me, it's now when I did a bit of embodiment in embodiment yoga, I can switch to different types of.
You can switch styles.
Yeah, so I'm watery and airy, but sometimes I can.
If you're in a business group, you've learned to be more flexible. I mean, that's one of the beauties of embodied yoga, right? We can be more flexible to go into different groups. You know, I can work with kind of the hippie protesters one day and then the police the next, you know.
Yeah, so it's flexibility for you as a teacher.
Yeah.
That's great.
And culturally as well, I imagine there's cultural factors there.
Yeah. So in Russia, you can do more earthy because everybody needs to know what.
Feel safe, to feel,
what's going on. Like for men, maybe you will be more like fiery.
Yeah, there's a gender difference here, right? Yeah.
For women, it's like caring.
Okay. It's a little bit more like the cliches sometimes here, isn't it? Yeah, it's not just a stereotype, but it's not to say that's a right stereotype, it's just to say that that's a useful adaptation sometimes, right? Yeah. And you notice any, with your students, are they all the same, are they different?
Yes, that was exactly, I was thinking of that I'm learning to make differences between students and to see which element is dominating, and maybe it is only today, not.
Yeah, the flow of it in the seasons and the bad day.
Students don't come from nowhere.
Sure.
They are coming in a different mood, in different state of mind. And I, as a teacher, I could adjust the practice to their essential element or to their situational element.
Yeah.
Yes, and maybe doing a group work, I even could suggest some variations for each student.
Great.
That could be great, but that needs a lot of work, and practice and experience.
Good. Okay, thank you both. I appreciate that. So, yeah, if you're watching this, be interesting in the comments, like how do you notice your students are different in terms of their, you know, we've got learning styles, personality types, all those different things. Like one posture is not just one posture, and we can't just, you know, my experience, if I just teach the same way as if for everyone, that doesn't end well. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, you can subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. More importantly, however, get the newsletter. So the newsletter you do, is that right? In the box here? Okay. So why you would want the newsletter, so you hear about the best videos, so you actually ask me questions, you can reply to the newsletter, I'll reply. You can hear about events, teacher trainings, other things that are happening, and stay in touch more reliably. So newsletter there.